31. That's the number of weapons that came in the base variation of Call of Duty World War II. The launch day copy of Call of Duty World War II included 31 base weapons, whether that be in terms of rifles, SMGs, shotguns, snipers, LMGs, pistols, melee weapons, and launchers. Whatever the category, there are 31 base weapons within the game. Now, this is something that today, that number might be getting a lot bigger in, well, maybe the near future, but nothing is guaranteed or confirmed. Though there is some information that gives some validity to this on the horizon coming up, and potentially as soon as maybe tomorrow. Now, I don't want to be jumping to conclusions with that one. That still kind of seems a little bit out there, but today in this one, we're going to be discussing 16 DLC weapons that were found in the Call of Duty World War II game code and what it could mean, how we could see them coming, and essentially the future of World War II as we know it. So that said, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things here within this one, but first and foremost, while we're going to be talking about DLC weapons that have been found in the game code, unfortunately, I can't show any imagery of this. I can leave links down there in the description below if you guys want to check the stuff out for yourself, but other than that, I can't show any of it up there simply because it is still considered intellectual property, and thus, as it not being live to everybody else, it runs the risk, if it were in video format, to do some damage, and well, of course, that's not something that I want to run in contact with. But nonetheless, we're going to be talking about 16 DLC weapons here within this one. So the list itself comes from Reddit and details the following 16 weapons: the trench knife, the combat knife, the ice pick, the Reichs revolver, the Walther P38, the Enfield No. 2, the Winchester 94 lever action, the Arsaka, the MG81, the M1919, the Beretta 30, the Sten, the Beretta 38, the Volkswagengewehr, or if you want to take it outside the German pronunciation, the Volkswagengewehr, the Type 5, and the Gewehr or Gewehr 43. Now, all of these were detailed with at least the base variant, some things having more than others detailed for them. Some had more variants than others, some had angled views, some had side views, and some even had specific calling cards for these and everything intact. So some things are definitely way more down the pipeline in progression than others, so we're not going to be seeing all 16 of these jumping into the game at once, but more so incrementally in DLC drops like we saw at previous points in time during the last few years of Call of Duty. Now, whether or not this total by the end of the year will exceed 16, I guess that's something that we'll see later in time. A lot of weapons can be still made in post-launch updates and things like that. We saw that with Modern Warfare Remastered most recently as well, in which we did not see these weapon DLC in the base game code. We saw maybe a few, but we also didn't see, say, the later released ones as well. So it is possible that while things are progressively made more in terms of what weapons work and everything like that, that's something in which we can totally see more coming at a later point in time via new patch updates that will give us incrementally more things to decipher out of the game code. Now, additionally, on top of these 16 weapons, we also got 3 brand new supply drop types. Right now, we have the common and rare supply drops, as we've seen with the past couple of games and the supply drop system there within, but we also had in-game code from the beta a lot of things detailing different bribes and various other types of supply drops as well too. But these new supply drops that are actually in the game code for the base variation of World War II after this last patch are legendary, epic, and weapon supply drops, each having their own denomination. Once again, while it's something that might not have all the details there for us just yet, it sounds pretty self-explanatory. A legendary probably guaranteeing a legendary item, an epic supply drop probably guaranteeing an epic, and a weapon doing just that as well too. More so probably like a bribe or something, but one thing that then leads me in turn to believe then though is that we'll be getting these weapons out of supply drops, but that might not be the only way. And I think the only silver lining to this entire thing, in which we'll be getting half of the base weapons at some point in time detailed to us by this game code, I think the one silver lining is the fact the supply drop system right now is one of the better ones that we've seen in the past. Black Ops 3's I think was absolutely horrid because everything pulled from the same collective pool of items, in which you were guaranteed 3 items of no specific rarity unless you ended up getting a bribe of some sort, no specific rarity, and out of say 3,000, 4,000 items. So your chances to get a weapon, let alone a weapon that you actually want, were absolutely abysmal. Modern Warfare Mastered system was okay in the way that collections allowed you to chip away at certain weapons that you actually wanted, and the weapons themselves were not in supply drops. But then Infinite Warfare system, whether you liked Infinite Warfare or not, you can't take this part away from it. They actually really, I think, one-up that system a little bit, in which DLC weapons were given out for free to season pass holders, but also were obtainable for free as well too via in-game challenges, which, while some of them might be a little bit tougher and a little bit more tedious, they didn't take all that long to complete in the grand scheme of things, especially if you were somebody that loved to grind out the game, though that might be a very small number of a sample size or something like that. But nonetheless, they did this right in the terms that new weapons themselves were given for free to season pass holders and players that decided they wanted to go for them. Now, of course, what was nice was that the variant system also offered an ability for them to still be in supply drops and thus make Activision a little bit more money here, which they're in the business side of things. Their sole objective is to make money, so while that doesn't really translate well to us, the consumers, that makes sense to them. And it was a nice little compromise, I think, here within that, because variants you didn't necessarily need, they did help a little bit here and there, but the base weapons themselves were available to everybody in that aspect. And that's where this now comes into play with a sort of hybrid system within World War II, where that, once again, silver lining, this might be the best system that we have yet in the supply drop campaign that's been moving throughout Call of Duty the past couple of years, because we have this collection system, we have this variant system that could allow for variants to be in supply drops and not be stat changing, just cosmetic only, and also give players the ability to have these weapons for free via season pass or maybe even in-game challenges once again, because there is that ability to make money, but also still that ability to please the fans. So while these sort of last couple of years may have been hit or miss in their own regards, I think this now comes together and sort of forms a more complete way to do the supply drop system, and thus, to me, it's quite possible we could have these weapons given to us for free via season pass or via in-game challenges, but the variants that are detailed are the ones that could be in supply drops. So that to me is the silver lining here with this, and while it is not confirmed, it makes sense to me and is a system that I think isn't the worst that we've seen. Of course, I would love to have these weapons for free guaranteed, but we'll see in time, I guess. So the next two things that I think are very important to discuss are when will these be coming and what weapons will we be seeing first in this new system, however it may be detailed and laid out for the players. Now, this is where it starts to once again get a little touchy. It's all based on theory and speculation at this point. There is absolutely nothing that says yes or no that we'll be getting one weapon on a specific day or something like that, but what does coincide with the earliest, I believe, is tomorrow, actually. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% guaranteed once again to come, because it's not. But it is interesting to note that after last week and the, therefore, I guess, kind of disaster around the servers still happening a week and a half after launch, this is something in which COD points were moved back until what is going to be tomorrow, the 21st of November. And this is when we'll be able to buy supply drops now with actual physical money. And while it is something in which there's not all that much that really is to be desired other than cosmetic items and something that maybe gives you a little bit more XP here and there, that would be the first introduction in terms of being able to actually buy it. Now, while it does seem nice to be able to drop money on something that doesn't actually advance how you'd be able to play, that's something that we haven't seen yet in Call of Duty. And I mean this in the sense that CSGO, H1Z1, other games like that with in-game economies have these things that are strictly cosmetic that you can actually buy. However, Call of Duty, anytime that you've actually been able to buy things, for the majority of times, it's been something that actually has some substantial value in-game, such as a new weapon. So with that said, while we haven't really seen purely that ability to buy cosmetic items for more than probably a couple of weeks at a time, it's only logical to infer that maybe we end up getting something, once again, of substantial value that maybe some people will drop money on coming at the same point in time. So it is possible that maybe tomorrow is the very start of when these weapons come, but personally to me, I still think that that is a little bit too early. So I'm kind of going to go against my own little theory here in this and say that it's going to be a little bit later. If I'm not mistaken, I think the earliest that we saw anything in regards to post-launch weaponry in a Call of Duty title, whether that be melee weapon or ranged weapons, I believe was actually in Black Ops 3, in which we we ended up seeing our first little look at what was only then at the time cosmetic melee weapons. This was something that came in, I believe, mid to around the 20th of December. So that said, while everything else has fallen in line out of the past two titles, despite only being a 1-year difference between the two, with Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered being released in the same year, both of those, I believe, came at the very tail end of December or in January, and I think Infinite Warfare's was actually alongside DLC 1, which was February. So that said, we haven't really seen anything as early as this ever in Call of Duty, but it is something that is always possible. Now, as for the weapons that we will potentially be seeing, once again, we talked about how all of these would not be released at one time. 16 weapons at once would be an absolute flood that would just infuriate players. Whether or not it's something that was given for free or not, it's just essentially the fact that why would you withhold these from the base game if you're going to release them later on? That just doesn't seem fair to the player itself. So, of course, I think these will be released over time and released incrementally, but we can also, once again, as mentioned before, see clear and cut developmental progress being made on some of these. And of course, while some look more finished than others, there are some weapons, 3 specifically out of this list, that do have actual reload animations and thus alongside it, menu information as well that could potentially be popped in at any point in time. Those weapons including the Reich's Revolver, the Beretta 30, and the Gewehr 43. So those weapons, I believe, will be the first ones up here that get pushed out to the general public. And once again, I'm really hoping, and I think that it is a very strong possibility, we can see these weapons coming for free for Season Pass holders, thus giving a little bit more value to the Season Pass, as some people have argued previously that it doesn't necessarily have, but also being given to players for free via in-game challenges, with those variants being the air quote money-making factor out of supply drops. And if it is the same system like we have right now, the cosmetic only items are in supply drops. Sure, they can offer you a little bit more XP bonus in the way of 10 to 15% extra XP. I'd be totally cool with that, and I think that that might be a compromise a lot of people would be totally cool with as well too, but maybe I'm completely wrong. But nonetheless, we have 16 weapons up on the table, up for grabs at some point in time during this, maybe more, maybe less, maybe some are completely cut, they were just there in the game code and won't actually make it, or maybe we'll see more coming across the table to us as players as the year progresses and everything like that, in which this first patch that updated World War II maybe didn't give us the full scope and spectrum of everything that is being worked on behind the scenes at Sledgehammer. Maybe more future patches will give us more, once again, progress in the development of some weapons and also include a little bit more. But nonetheless, 16 is what we have debuted to us right now out of this leak from Reddit, and of course that is over half actually, by 1, the amount of weapons that we had in the base game of World War II. So that said, we talked about a lot in this episode, so give me your thoughts, give me your feedback here on all of this, whatever it may be. There's a lot to discuss, so feel free to drop it down there in the comment section down below. Are you guys a fan of the way that these may be implemented? Are you guys a fan of the amounts of weapons coming at some point in time during the year? Are you guys a fan of any particular weapons, or are you guys just not cool with this at all? Of course, this is all subjective, so there is no right or wrong answer. Feel free to let me know down there in the comment section down below, but hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day, and hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. And that said, make sure you drop a like down below on the video, and if you guys are new to Carnage, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding Call of Duty. We're gonna be killing it with the gameplays, all kinds of news and information, tips, tricks, best class setups, all that good stuff. So if any of it interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And finally, follow us over on Twitter if you guys have not done so already. We're up to date with everything over there as well too, and love to get connected with you guys a little further. But that said, hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.